No, chat. No. Martha's Vineyard isn't where Martha Stewart lives. Or maybe. I don't know. It's a tourist resort. And apparently it's one of the most beautiful places on Earth. Well, not on Earth, but in America. It's one of the most beautiful places in America. And some rich people decided to buy homes there. Barack Obama, for instance, got a home there. I don't know why he isn't concerned about global warming, because first of all, building a mansion, it's not very carbon friendly, and secondly, it's next to the ocean. Like, I understand that soon the glaciers, they start to melt and the water starts to rise, so if you have a home next to the ocean, that's muy problematic, huh? But yet, Barack Obama seems to, you know what I think he wants to do? I think he wants to help out the community. Maybe he likes the community there. And he knows that people want to sell, right? I mean, the climate catastrophe is coming, so people want to sell now. And he's like, you know what? I'll buy it. Hello, Amakunok. Thank you for the donation. Oh my God, this is something that happened in Israel, chat. Did you know that? Did you know that this actually happened in Israel? It happened in Israel around 2016, 2018. There were right-wing politicians and activists which would go around Israel and they would hand flyers to immigrants. And the flyers were like, go to such and such's house because they're a left-wing politician and they're an open doors type of guy. So they sent a lot of immigrants to the mansions of these left-leaning politicians. And then they had camera crews to film how the security would turn them away. And they would be like, well, look, if they can't get them in, like, why are they advocating for everyone else to do that? So that's where it first happened, like this, interesting, how should I even say it? Like, social experiment, let's put it like this. Open door type of, I mean, it was like an open door policy, right? So it's like, now let me show you Martha's Vineyard. It's an island. The island is problematic. Let's put it like this. Like, if you wanted to make a Netflix show where it's like a telenovela that goes through the drama of the people on the island, it wouldn't get greenlit because it lacks diversity. Like, this island is 90% white. Doesn't have a lot of diversity. Diversity is our strength, but alas, not in the case of Martha's Vineyard. And this is how big it is, chat. Look at it. Look at it. It's immense. It's huge. And they couldn't house 50 people. Like, that's what we're talking about. 50 people, chat. Okay? Like, not 5,000, not 10,000, not even 1,000. No. 50 people, a 5 and a 0, couldn't get in. Now, I'll tell you something else, because they say, well, it's a housing crisis. There's no place. This is a seasonal resort. This is where people go to spend on vacation. So, outside of season, which is now, because it's September, they have so many empty rooms, it's not even funny. Now, these are asylum seekers, right? So, they're not refugees or illegals like the... No, they're asylums. They have a right to be there. But the thing is, like, until they get processed and they get a license, right? Because that's what the government needs to do. Like for the perfect example, the Amish farmer, right? Like, the Amish farmer produces goods. He produces milk, chicken, and eggs, right? Now, the government has to inspect to see if there is the quality fit for consumption. So they don't just take the word for it. No. They get processed. So you give it to a government facility that processes the chicken, the eggs, right? And then the government facility decides if they're fit for... The same thing here. Like, you have people that are asylum seekers, and then a government official has to process them and decide whether or not they genuinely deserve asylum or not. But until that happens, where can they stay? DeSantis thought maybe they can stay at Martha's Vineyard. Because, like, Martha's Vineyard has this, refugees are welcome here. So they thought that for the time, until they get processed, they would be allowed to stay there. Little did DeSantis know that within 24 hours, the The military, chat. The military arrived to take them to a military base. That is progressive. See, that is the heart of the Democratic Party. The party of strength. Of Tsuyoi. I'm agnostic, but God bless DeSantis. They didn't... They rejected the cultural enrichment. That's what they did, right? But like, I want to show you something else. You know, look, I have a confession to make, chat. Some of you may be shocked by what I'm about to say. I don't normally admit things like this, but in this situation, I'll come clean. Okay? Chat, I often frequent places on the internet that are a little bit edgy. I go on places on the internet where occasionally racism can happen. I know I shouldn't, but I'm a gamer, chat. I'm a gamer, and I go on various forums and places and websites that may or may not be taken down right now. But I'm exposed constantly, you know, to the worst mankind has to offer. And yet even I was shocked when I read this. This is from ABC News. NBC News. Sorry, my bad. NBC News. After Florida Governor Ron DeSantis sent 2 planes of mostly Venezuelan asylum seekers to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, advertising executives slammed the move as a political stunt. Okay, look what this advertising executive Max Leffeld had to say. It's like me taking my trash out and just driving to a different area where I live and just throwing my trash there, said Leffeld, a Venezuelan American who's a founding member of the Casa Venezuelan Dallas Foundation, which helps recent refugees. It's like me taking my trash out. Now, NBC News, initially, they posted this on Twitter. Like, it was the article with the thumbnail. You know, it's like taking the trash out. Within a couple of minutes, they realized that, you know what? Maybe that's not the best way to frame it. Maybe it can be framed in a different... Maybe they can find a different example than that of taking out the... You know, like, just... It's not very politically correct. Let's put it like that. You know, it's not very current year. But again, like, I go on various forums, alright? Places where there is a lot of hatred. And even those people aren't capable of saying things like that. And that's what the left likes to say, huh? That's what progressive people. Big yikes. Big yikes. I wouldn't even call it hate speech. I would call it honest speech. This is literally what the person believes. Like a moment of honesty. You know, it's kind of like when you're frustrated and you tell your boss what you really think. Like when you're caught in a bad mood and you don't sugarcoat anything. Like you just say what's on your heart. You say what's on your soul. That's what happened, chap. That's literally what happened there. Even before politically correctness, that is very uncalled for. I do agree. Like, that is over the pale. Oh, see? I'm learning Americana. Over the pale. Or is that a British expression? It's like your opens the gate so that other people can put rubbish in your backyard. Well, yeah, no, it's like if you want to use the rubbish example, which, by the way, I don't want to use it. But it's like opening your yard and you say, I will... Well, you know, I can't even do it. No, I don't want to use the example with trash because it's a horrible example. It's like opening your yard and saying free parking here, right? And then when people come and park their car where your yard is, you get upset. And it's like, oh, well, that's over the pay. Why are you parking? Like, dude, you said. It's beyond the best. Shut the fuck up. Why do you think you know English better than I do, huh? I've been speaking English for 12 years, goddammit. Shut the fuck up. Actually, more than 12 years. Doesn't matter. I love this, like CNN. The migrants sent to Martha's Vineyard have been voluntarily. Oh, I see. They've been they're voluntarily taken to a military base. Is this common procedure, by the way? I just have to ask. Like, is this common procedure when people go to Texas seeking asylum? Do they get taken to a military base? Within 24 hours, they had soldiers there, by the way. There's I love this picture. I love this picture so fucking much. I don't know why. I wonder if it's a photo op. Or if it's like literally a heat in the moment picture. Like, Like which one do you think it is? And by the way, also an army of reporters on the case. Like, holy shit. So 50 migrants were sent by plane to Martha Vineyard in Massachusetts by Florida governor. By the way, they weren't sent from Florida, they were sent from Texas. The migrants, after 2 days of uncertainty on the small island... And by the way, this is something else that I have to question. Like, let's say I'm in Ukraine. And I'm fleeing war. Right? Like, all of a sudden, there's bombs dropping, and I want to flee the country. So I go to Romania. And the Romanian authorities at the border, they take me somewhere within Romania where they're going to process me. They take me... Like, do I really give a fuck where at that point? Like, do I care if I'm being taken to Bucharest, if I'm taken to Cluj, if I'm taken to Sinaia? Like, does it really matter where I'm taken? As long as, you know, like, they're not putting me into any... precarious conditions. But I don't think that at Martha's Vineyard there were any harm that came to the migrants, right? Like, again, they need to be processed, right? So they were being taken to one of the most beautiful places in the United States, as well as met by a group of people that wanted only good for them. So where exactly is the problem? Like, I still don't understand. Like, where is the nature of concern? Like from what I understand, people from Florida and people from Texas, they voted that they want to enforce immigration laws. But people from Martha's Vineyard and other states, they call themselves sanctuary states, right? Like, they want immigration. They want. So what is the problem? What is the controversy? The controversy seems to be, it's like, well, they were lied to. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Like, the controversy is that, well, they didn't consent. They were lied to. And, okay. Here we go. Right. So they were lied. But what if they weren't? Like, what if they would have wanted to go to Martha? Well, like, what if, like, let's say from now on, you know, like, refugees who want to travel to Martha Vineyard are welcome to do so. Where would the controversy be then? Like, do you want to stay in Texas with 10,000 other people waiting processing, or do you want to go to Martha Vineyard and wait there, where there's an army of people willing to embrace you and feed you and clothe you? Huh? If you are running from Venezuela, you hate socialism. Depends. That's like saying if you run from California, you hate the Democrats. That's not necessarily true. But also, I suppose, like, if this was a way to... You know, look at the voting block. It's like, okay, so they're going away from Venezuela. They're probably not going to vote left wing. And then you put them in a blue state so that they can vote red. Well, obviously not them, right? Well, hold on. Can asylum seekers vote? Like, that's another question. Can asylum seekers vote? I don't know the law in the United States. I don't know if asylum seekers get citizenship, but probably their children can anyway, so. It took me 8 years to get my green card. I came here legally. Well, I know. A lot of people would be a little bit upset if they had to wait 8 years and other people could just do it whenever they want. My diversity. Can I come to the United States without the green card? Apparently, some people say yes, some people say no. Asylum seekers can vote in places that I don't know. I just I think their children can, right? Because their children would be citizens. Asylum isn't citizenship. Okay. So anyway, the migrants had been flown from Texas to Martha's Vineyard. And Martha's Vineyard had not been expecting the group. Why do you have to expect them? Like, I don't think so. So, for example, when you had the war in Ukraine, there were many Ukrainian refugees which came to my town. Do you think anyone expected them, like, 2 days before? No, but, like, people made what was necessary, and they were taken care of. Like, you can't bullshit me that one of the richest places in the United States, which is Martha's Vineyard, were taken aback by the fact that 50 people came onto their shores. And we are talking again about people who live in a tourist resort. Like, they have empty beds, they have empty houses. Like, this is a cope. That, they didn't wanna. Like, that's the difference, right? Like, if you don't wanna house them, that's fine. But, like, be honest about it. No, it's like, we want, just not in our backyard. An American fairy tale. Not in my backyard. At a church where they had, look at this. They got them in a church. So a place which is riddled with hotels and empty summer homes and all of that. They had to go to a church. Migrants cheered as they were taken to the church. Friday morning, when they heard that the Massachusetts government would shelter them at the Cape Cod military base, they boarded government-arranged buses willingly, officials said, and they arrived at the military installation. I'm really curious, like, what if they would have said no? What if they would have said no? I'm curious what then? Like, if all 50 migrants had said, no, we don't want to go to the military base because we like it here. The people, they seem to like us as well. Like, we noticed posts with refugees are welcome here. Like, maybe some of them will give us a job. Maybe they can train us into the hospitality industry. If Biden doesn't shut it down again. You should have at least one citizen as a parent to be born at... Yeah, you should have, but that's not what the current law is. Sorry about that. Well, didn't Obama fit around 200 people during his party? Was it the party at Martha's Vineyard? I'm asking questions. I'm not informing people. But I remember he had like this massive party going on, and there were tents and stuff. The police were there in case they said no. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, but then CNN wouldn't have been able to say willingly. Hello, Rosalhim. I missed you. At the base, some of the migrants from Venezuela received general information about U.S. immigration laws. According to a migrant who spoke to CNN, at this time, CNN is unable to verify what exactly was shared or to whom due to lack of access. The migrants will be housed in dormitory-style spaces with separate space accommodation, both individually and families will not be separated. Oh, I'm so glad. They will have access to services including legal, healthcare, food, hygiene kits, and crisis counseling. Well, the crisis is like, why do some people get to live in Martha's Vineyard and I don't, Thought this is America. I thought they have equity. Meanwhile, a group of civil rights attorneys working with the migrants said that their stories are heartbreaking and infuriating. Many of the migrants went to a hospital in need of care upon their arrival. Yeah, but again, the richest place in the world. well, not the, but one of the most richest places in the world, surely had facilities to take care of them. Some of these migrants were sent to Martha's Vineyard even though they have immigration hearing schedules near Massachusetts, the group said. Migrants released from the government custody often move to other cities in the U.S. as they go through their immigration proceedings. I am pretty sure that, like, I don't know how America works, like, but I'm pretty sure if the government moves you, you have a reasonable recourse in court. So, like, for example, right? Let's say I have a day in court tomorrow, but for some reason the government moves me. Like, there's a flood in my town. Or whatever fucking reason, it doesn't matter. Let's say the police sees me on the street and mistakes me for a criminal. Like, I didn't commit anything, but the police mistakes me for a criminal and they arrest me. And I have a day in court. The fact that the police detained me is a valid excuse for the judge. Like, they will prolong, they will set another court date. Like, they won't consider that you ran away or anything like that. So, you know, like, oh, well, he had the day in court. Yeah. This cowardly political stunt, we're going to get to this in a bit. The lawyer for civil rights group said in a news on Friday, some now have immigration hearings as early as Monday, thousands of miles away. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, like, again, like, if they go to a judge in a different state, they can explain the situation and they will find something up. Some attorney from the group accompanied the migrants on the buses to the military base. Flights came from Texas, though Florida governor says he arranged them. I love how DeSantis is like, no. Look, Texas, I'm taking credit. All right? Like, look, Texas, listen to me. I'm taking credit. I'm taking the fall for this, right? Like, I want my name to be mentioned. I want to be here in front of the cameras with my hands like this. I want to, okay? Not you, me, DeSantis. For months, DeSantis has been talking about his plans to get Florida involved in redirecting migrants from the southern border in a way to maximize heartburn for Democratic leaders. By the way, the Democrats voted for this as well. Like, it's in the Florida budget. I think he allocated $18 million, give or take, in order to have the migrants moved, right? So the Democrats voted for this as well. But this reminds me of Game of Thrones, right? Like, in Game of Thrones, you had the White Walkers that were coming, and you know, it was causing problems for the North, which had the North Wall, and they were constantly raided and blah, blah, blah. And all the southern kingdoms didn't give a shit, right? So King's Landing didn't care, the Dorns didn't care. It's like, not their problem. Right? Let the Northmen deal with that issue. And it's the same here. It's like, well, if you're in a state that's not next to the border, like, why is that your problem? Why do you care? Bipartisan, exactly, Caleb. I love that. Bipartisan. I'm in love with that word, bipartisan. In a Friday news conference in Daytona Beach, DeSantis said he intends to use every penny of the $12 million, and set the expectation for more buses and likely more flights with migrants paid to by Florida. These are just beginning efforts, he said. The governor defended using taxpayer dollars to send the migrants to Martha's Vineyard because he said many of the people who cross the borders end up in his state. State budget recorded shows 6 days before the migrants were flown to Massachusetts, Florida Department of Transportation paid $650,000. Oh, now the Democrats care about taxpayer money. Now they care about taxpayer money. I see. Oh, it took a flight for the Democrats to care about government spending. Now government spending is important. Budget records do not detail what kind of contracted services Virtual provided the department, nor is it clear whether the $615,000 was for 2 flights at Martha's Vineyard. Additional budget records obtained by CNN also show that the state first requested the payment on September the 7th. This was a long-time planning, chat. CNN reached out to Virtual Systems, the Department of Transportation, but they did not give a response. White House denounces DeSantis' move. Oh my God. Well, DeSantis' decision to arrange the migrants' flight to Massachusetts was one of 2 high-profile transports sent north by Southern Republican governor this week. On Thursday, 2 buses of migrants sent to Texas by Greg Abbott arrived outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's residence in the national capital. I love the fact, like, this is what I love. Like, this has been happening for a while now. I mean, it's been in the news, but many people haven't followed. But red states have been busing migrants around for quite a little bit. Like, someone was busing them for, I believe, 2 or 3 months now. And they were being bused to Washington, D.C. They were being bused into other blue states, even at Vice President Kamala Harris's residence. And no one gave a fuck until they got bused to Martha's Vineyard. Like, when they got bused to Martha's Vineyard, then everyone is like, oh my god. Someone did the math. It looks like the average cost of an illegal migrant on a state is about $300,000 to $500,000. A plane ticket is $100 to I don't know, but still, look, Martha's Vineyard looks like a wealthy place to me. So I don't think they lack the facilities or the abilities to care for these people. I mean, it's not like they were bused to, I don't know, California. Yeah, I mean, that would be horrible. Like, I would understand if they got bused to California. I'd be like, holy shit. I mean, that's inhumane. Like, who wants to live in California, right? Or in New York. I would be like, oh my god, like, really? They got bused to New York? Why would they do something like that? They're human beings, like Jesus. No, they got bused to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, it's... Right? You don't have to send me shit, Tactical Droid. That's, coming up. So anyway, Texas started busing migrants to Washington this spring. Look, it's been happening since spring, actually. The people in Martha's Vineyard immediately put them back on a bus. No, they called the military, Aiden. Like, I want you to be precise. They called the fucking military within 24 hours, right? Like, they didn't put them on a bus. They didn't put them... No, they called the military. Alright, you need to be precise in what they did, Aiden. So, Texas started busing migrants this spring. Arizona Republican Governor Doug Ducey follows suit, and the 2 states have since sent thousands of migrants to Washington. Abbott has expanded Texas's effort to include New York City and Chicago. But yeah, think about it, you know, like, they're coming to America, right? Like, they fleeing poverty or war or whatever, and they're coming to America. They're not coming necessarily to Texas. Like, Texas doesn't want them. Doesn't it make sense that sanctuary cities want them? Or the people that vote for that want them? Like, I understand Texas is racist. Martha's Vineyard, I don't know, I don't think it's a racist place. They vote Democrat. Apparently, there were around 300 soldiers and 60 migrants. 5 soldiers per migrant. Oh my... God. You know, some of the migrants were children. Like, do you think they they also required 5 soldiers? I'm tired of my people being used as prop, regardless of politics. Well, what can I say? I mean, politics is politics. I do understand the concern, Marinara. Like, I would probably be upset as well, but look, I think this year alone there have been a couple of million people that went to Texas. Like, America is a big place. They have to be, you know, placed in other states as well. Anyway. You know what? Marinara, I'll tell you the solution. I'll tell Marinara. Come to Romania. Romania will take them in. I'm not kidding. We lost around 8 million people to emigration. If they're Venezuelans and they went through the horrors of socialism, they will integrate here quite well. Anyway, 5 soldiers per immigrant. Holy shit. So, I remember when there was the Starbucks incident. Do you guys remember the Starbucks incident? So, the Starbucks incident had two black men which were discussing business at a Starbucks cafe, and one of them wanted to use the bathroom. And the owner of the Starbucks told the man that if he wants to use the bathroom, he has to order something. He refused to order something, so they called the cops. And I remember that there were 5 policemen that arrived. And Anna Kasperian from the Enclave, like, she was very upset. It's like, why would you send 5 policemen for 2? Well, now apparently they sent 5 soldiers per immigrant. And again, like, CNN says that they voluntarily left. Motherfucker, if you're going to bring 5 military guys that are going per person, right? So in total, like, you have an army there, and they're telling you, like, hey, you need to come with us to the army base. Is it really voluntary? Is it? Is it though? Like, is it voluntary? Huh? Like, imagine this way. You have 5 soldiers arriving at your home, and they're telling you to go with them. If you go with them, is it voluntary? Is it? Is it really? Yeah, they ask nicely, of course. They were heavily incentivized. It's like, come on. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Well, yeah, I'm literally curious, like, what would have happened if the immigrants would have said, nah, we're not going. I mean, like, look, there's a lot of friendly people here, and they're taking care of us, and I would rather wait until I'm being processed. I would rather wait at Martha's Vineyard rather than go to a military base. Starbucks is a sanctuary business. Starbucks literally became a sanctuary business. So, what ended up happening after that controversy, you had the CEO of Starbucks saying that anyone can use their bathrooms and anyone can stay there. Now, the problem is Starbucks, it's a very expensive brand of coffee that not everyone can afford. So, the type of people that go to Starbucks, let's say that they're the Martha's Vineyards of the coffee enthusiasts. You know, like, these are usually very wealthy student brats who like to say that they care about other people and that their empathy is a lot more developed than yours, but they don't want to actually do something about it. You know, like, they don't want to actually see people sitting next to them. They want to LARP as if they care, but they don't really want to see, like, the homeless guy sitting next to him at a Starbucks or going and shooting up heroin into the bathroom. So what ended up happening is after the CEO said, oh yes, like, everyone is allowed to come here, obviously he started having a drug problem. Like, the staff on Reddit posted a lot about this, how they were leaving Starbucks because they didn't like cleaning the bathrooms and getting themselves poked with needles that God knows what had in them, and of course, exposing themselves to various illnesses. So his staff quit, his customers quit, and recently, the CEO of Starbucks made an article saying, oh, Starbucks is like a window in American politics, and it's so horrible because, like, we can't do anything and blah, blah, blah. Martha's Vineyard literally can't say, sorry, we have enough labor. We don't want to pay $10 an hour. Martha's Vineyard, again, for those of you who are new here, they're a tourist resort. Right? Like, they had so many beds. It's probably one of the biggest bread and breakfast institutions in the entire world right now. And not only that, but they could have also hired those people. Right? Like, if you're talking about hiring people for a couple of months until they get processed, like, look, They could have literally won the PR campaign with this if they genuinely wanted to get involved in politics, right? But the only time they want to get involved in politics is to tell other people about how bigoted they are, and they want to pride themselves on, oh yes, we welcome refugees here, and etc. etc. But in reality, they don't give a shit, right? Because they could have just taken those people. I mean, it's 50 people. We're talking about 50 freaking people. We're not talking about like 1,000 people. No, 50. Like 50 people. And again, like the people at Martha's Vineyards, they're all for, like, oh, let's help our fellow man, and let's help them out. They could have done it. They didn't take a single freaking one. The military took them all. within 24 hours. It's a snowbird community, not a tourist community. The actual residents don't have work in winter. But that's besides the point. It's 50 people, and those are rich as fuck at Martha's Vineyard. Like, they're obscenely wealthy. Yeah, like if every single person from Martha's Vineyard would have pitched in, like, I don't know, $10. I mean, for them, $10 is like nothing, right? Like, $10 a day for one refugee, and you have like 10 people doing that, you get like $100 a day. Holy shit, that's a lot of money. Portland Andy is trying to plan a trip there, and he's slowly coming to the realization that he can't afford it. Man, like, see, this is what a lot of people fail to understand. We're not talking about, like, going to Switzerland. It's Martha's fucking Vineyard. Like, it's where the wealthiest of the wealthy go. It's where the Obamas stay. It is excruciatingly expensive. That's probably why the plane trip costed so much. The island supports 200,000 people in the vacation seasons, despite the permanent population being just 20,000. A lot of empty homes. Yeah, no, I fully understand. So the U.S. attorney will speak with members of the Department of Justice about DeSantis sending the migrants to Martha's Vineyard. Though she did not have enough information to say whether he broke any laws in doing so. And by the way, the media is already accusing him of kidnapping. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Despite Wednesday's unannounced arrival on Martha's Vineyard, some residents of the island worked quickly to provide some key services. The island is known for being a summer haven for the affluent. Our island jumped into action, putting together 50 beds, giving everyone a good meal. By the way, I saw the meals that they gave. There was no meat on the table. Unless they gave some meals that weren't photographed for the press. Like, that's also a possibility. Providing a play area for the children, making sure they have healthcare and support they need. Alright, so what's the problem then? Right, let's talk about the criminal aspect of this. This is kind of like... Imagine you have a burglar into your house, right? Like, maybe a person that's confused. Let's put it like that. You know, like, all right, let's put it different. There's a really nasty storm outside, all right? And some person goes into your house to seek shelter. Now, you call the cops. The cops take that person, and they send him to the mayor's mansion. Is that kidnapping? I mean, I guess, I don't know, it depends on the legislation. But what I'm trying to say that what happened here, the thing that I can see is fraud. Like, that's the thing that I see. It's kind of like fraud. So, they were lied about where they were supposed to go. Now, they would have to prove that there were that... Because the thing is, like, if you seek political asylum, like, if I go to, I don't know, if I go to the UK, right? Let's say the war with Ukraine comes into Romania, and I go to UK in order to seek shelter. And the UK border guards, they say, all right, well, we need to verify whether you're from Romania or not. We need to verify and process you, right? And then they get to send me somewhere. Like, they're going to send me in a place. Now, I don't give a shit where they're sending me. Like, they can send me to Ireland to wait while I'm being processed. They can send me to Scotland. They can send me to London. I would prefer not London. But, you know, like, you don't get to choose these things. Like, you're seeking asylum, right? And you're going to stay where they put you to stay. If you don't like it, you can always leave. Like, you're not being detained. Like, that's the thing. Hungary has figured this shit out. So the way Hungary has dealt with the migrant crisis, because this was a problem, you had a lot of left-leaning activists and lawyers and a team of all of these, you know, open borders people that were operating in Hungary. And what happened was the same thing. Like, they had people coming in, requesting asylum, and then they wouldn't show up to the court dates, right? So what would happen is that their lawyers from all of these left-leaning NGOs would try to stall the process as long as possible so that the authorities would lose track of them, right? So what Hungary did is that they pulled the border, right? So let me see if I can show you with a PowerPoint presentation what Hungary did. So imagine that this is the Hungarian border, right? Did you guys see it? Yeah, you see it. This is the Hungarian border, right? So what they did is that they pulled the border back. So now this is where you enter Hungary, and this place right here, like this part right here, was kind of like no man's land. Like you weren't in Hungary, but you weren't outside of Hungary either. So the refugees were having to stay here in this place, right? And there were tents and other things. And technically they were safe, right? Because they're fleeing something, like they're fleeing war. So in this area, they're considered to be safe. But at the same time, they weren't in Hungary either. So if they didn't like it, they can always leave. Like they weren't forced to stay in. But at the same time, they couldn't, it wasn't allowed for them to go inside the country either. So they were, you know, like they had to wait within the no man's land to get processed. And if they didn't like it, they could just go back out. So this is what we did, what Hungary did. Does Romania have a history of racismus? No, Romania doesn't have a history of racismus. Romania has a history of classismus. Like we had during the medieval time, we had the nobles, the aristocrats, and then we had the peasants. The peasant wasn't allowed to leave the land of the noble. The peasant had to first work for the noble. The peasant could be recruited and drafted to war for the noble. And for the same crime, the peasant was punished harder. Like, for example, raping a woman. If the noble raped a peasant woman or the woman of a lesser noble, then he would have to pay a fine. If the peasant did that, he would be decapitated. So, you did have like an underclass of people, which was quite a significant chunk of the population, that you can't necessarily, I mean, it's not like they were slaves, but at the same time, they couldn't leave their house, right, their land. So if they wanted to travel to the city, that wasn't allowed, unless they had permission for the noble. And of course, like there's, I think like there's academic papers which compare the way peasants were treated in Europe to how slaves were treated in the United States. In some cases, the aristocrat, like the noble, was allowed to beat the peasant. Like you were allowed to flagellate him. You could sell him. Now the thing is, like, you couldn't sell the peasant, right? Like you couldn't sell him as a human being, but you could sell the land on which the peasant was located, and by selling the land, you were selling the peasant as well. Like they weren't allowed to choose which noble they could be under, right? So, for example, if you worked on a field, and the noble sold you to another noble, well, now you're working for that other noble, right? You have no say in it. It's like they were unvaxxed. Yes, they didn't have the QR code to leave. Medial serf worked a third of the days of the year. No, it depends on which country and which state, right? Like here, it was actually quite brutal. In the Romanian states like Wallachia, Moldavia, Transylvania, it was very brutal for the peasantry. If you look at the UK, for example, well, you know, London, England, I don't know how it was in Scotland, but in England it was a lot better. Like the peasants had more rights, they had better status, and they were treated a lot better than the peasants here. And then, of course, you had communism. I mean, under communism, the government could force you out of your home if they wanted to. They also forced you to work in certain conditions, because if you didn't work, they considered that to be social parasitism. Obviously, it wasn't as bad. But my point is, like, if you treated someone, like today, if you treated the same way that an aristocrat treated a peasant, that would be, like, you would be arrested for slavery. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if you actually had, like, a field, and you treated modern Romanians the same way in the past the aristocrats treated the peasants, you would be arrested for running a slave operation. If the British Empire gives land to Israel, do they sell the people? No. That's not the same. Like you're not like you're free to leave the land. Like let's say that I don't know, Transylvania gets sold to Hungary, right? You're free to leave. Like you're not tied to the land, and you don't have to work for the Hungarian lord to pay your existence. It's completely different. It's not even remotely compared. I guess like the way you could compare it, but even then it would be necessarily like if you have an apartment that you're renting, and then you sell it to another person, like, and the person buys it with the tenants inside, then they pay rent to him. But again, it's not the same because they can just fucking leave. Like, we're not talking about a similar situation. Like, you are tied to the land. You're not allowed to leave it under any circumstance, right? Like, it's illegal for you to leave your village unless you have permission from the noble. Most of your assets are tied to the land. That doesn't matter. Like, I'm saying that it was illegal to leave, right? It's illegal to go to the city. In fact, many cities, they offered, this is in the UK, like, if you managed to be a peasant and you escaped into a city, then after, I believe it was like 2 years or so, you are considered a free man. So if you are just to prove, you know, like the whole concept is like, is peasantry similar to slavery, right? They had the concept of free peasants. And if they had the concept of free peasants, then that means that there were peasants who weren't free. So they were enslaved. Again, it's not accurate to compare it to slavery in the United States, right? Because that's different. But what I am saying is that it's still a form of being that most people would definitely not want. Like, who the fuck would want to live like that? I think people tend to forget that feudal society was basically dystopian. You had no freedom of movement, fear justice, no privacy, and endless wars. I guess, like, well, first of all, you did have privacy, right? Like, that's not true. Like, the Lord wouldn't just be able to look out the window to see who you're fucking. But, yeah, I mean, people would talk, right? So if you talked ill of the noble and someone at the tavern hurt you, they could actually go up the chain and rat on you. Like, this is how most authoritarian regimes, since the birth of mankind up until today, have operated, using informants and rats. But you did have privacy. At least a lot more than you have today, because people didn't have Facebook. And secondly, the endless wars, while yes, it happened, and they were quite often, just because, like, let's say Romania is into war, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to participate. It was usually by rotation, like which noble, because, like, someone still has to plow the fields, right? Like, you can't just send all of your peasantry to battle, and then you realize that no one is there to harvest the fields and everyone is starving. So, and a lot of wars were smaller skirmishes. Like, there are even conflicts that involve like 20 or 30 people. So it really depends. But yeah, all in all, it was a bad time to be alive in. Did you have guns? Yes, under communism we didn't have guns. But we have guns before that, which is why I like to talk about the my private company can do whatever it wants argument. So, before communism, during the interbellum period, you have the Industrial Revolution, and in many factories there are being constructed. Now, what's interesting is that the way factories operated is that they attracted people from the rural area, and they would offer you a place to live. So you would be on the premise of the factory, right? You would have your own tenant, kind of like a small apartment, and you lived onto the premise of the factory. Now, sometimes they wouldn't even pay you in actual money. They would pay you in funny money that you could use to purchase stuff from their facility. So, for example, if you were to work under a Coca-Cola factory, just using it as an example, and they would pay you with Coca-Cola coins, well, the Coca-Cola coin is useless, but you could have used it in order to purchase food from the factory, from the facility, right? So anyway, like what ends up happening is that a lot of workers start being upset because in some places, like it was a 14-hour workday. In some cases, 16-hour workday. Like they would work their workers as hard as possible, pay them funny money, like all of that. So eventually, workers would go on strike. Now, what would happen is, and this was fully legal, right, like fully justified, is the factory owner, he would come up with guns, and he would say, you are on my property. You can either go back to work, you can leave, or you can get shot, right? So, like, legally speaking, because the workers were onto the private company, you know, I mean, private company can do whatever it wants, because they were on private property, they could have left. Like, no one was forcing them to stay, right? Like, that was always a possibility. But, like, leave with what? Because you're not owning anything. Like, all the money you made is funny money from the factory, right? You can't spend it anywhere else. Most people had their families there, had no place to go. They were protesting because they wanted better wages or maybe to be paid in real money rather than funny money. So, you know, like, if they got shot, the factory owner wouldn't get into trouble because it was legal. It was on their property. So my point is, like, because this was a problem, we started creating labor laws. Like, it wasn't just, oh, well, my private company can do whatever it wants. I'm thinking that leftists, like Chad leftists from today, if you put them in a time machine, they would have been okay with the factory owner. They would be like, well, it's like, oh, come on, it's my private company. It's capitalism. Oh. So, there's a lot of criticism that Karl Marx had, which I can understand why it was so popular under that circumstance. Like, I can't imagine how it was like to live like that. But again, we don't live in the time of Karl Marx. We're in 2022, and we do not have capitalism. We have mixed economies. You can't say Euro poor in Super Chat. That's very interesting. I don't know why they would censor something like that. Although, to be honest, like, the euro is worth as much as the dollar now. Last time I checked, at least. So, I don't know if Euro poor is going to be accurate within the next 5 years. Yeah, the thing is so weird. Because, like, I remember reading in my history books, which were made by the communists, right? And even though when I went to school, communism fell, like, the culture and the same books that the communists used was still the ones that I studied on. And they were constantly talking about how the workers all of a sudden burned the factories. And I'm like, why? It's like, oh, because they were angry. Why? Because the factories were technological advancements and they didn't understand. They were afraid of the technology. And then you realize, it's like, it's not that they were afraid of the technology. It's that the factory owners were fucking dicks. Fun fact. I believe that the Legea Strămoșească allowed the Romanians of Transylvania to carry weapons during the Middle Ages. This right was ripped away after the failed peasant revolt of Bobulna. I don't know. Maybe. I find it bizarre that Romanians within Transylvania were allowed to carry weapons, actually. So anyway, let me show you something else, because I got another article that we should discuss. So after hearing how awful it is what DeSantis did, I mean, it's unthinkable. It's beyond the pale. New York City is relocating migrants to Florida after city's immigration boss claimed that's where they'd rather be. But it's very interesting, right? Because DeSantis sent the migrants where the people of that land wanted migrants. Like, they wanted diversity. They wanted to help other people. And they sent them there. But now you have people in Florida which clearly voted against, and you're sending them there. Like, aren't you sending them to racismus? So, why do I get this? Huh? And by the way, this is how Romanian advertisements look. Right? Do you get advertisements like this where you're from? Do you get advertisements from, huh? Is this how the bottle looks? You're jealous, Amerikanski. You're poor. You're poor. We may be poor, but we are rich in spirit. Officials are going to fly out migrants to Florida. By the way, why do they keep flying them? Can't they use a bus? After claiming many of them did not want to come to the Big Apple. Who the fuck wants to come to the Big Apple, though? The Commissioner of Immigration Affairs for the city says that a lot of the migrants being bused from Texas by Governor Greg Abbott are coming from Venezuela. Why are they fleeing socialism, though? This is why I don't understand. I mean, isn't socialism so great? Why are they leaving? Especially during an energy crisis, right? I mean, Venezuela has oil. Manuel Castro claims that the majority of illegal immigrants... Oh my fucking god, he said the word. You can't say illegal immigrants. That's -2 credit score points. They have arrived to New York. They want to go to Florida because of their large community of Venezuelans. I find it interesting that you get to pick and choose, though. Like, if I manage to flee war, like, let's say I'm fleeing again. Let's say the war with Ukraine, you know, it goes into Romania and I'm fleeing war. Do you honestly think that I care, like, where in the UK I get to go? Like, just away from war. That would be on my mind. Just away from the battlefield. His comments came just days after Mayor Eric Adams was seen with celebrities during the New York Fashion Week. Shortly after, reporters said that the city's shelters are at the breaking point. Yeah, but didn't they say they're a sanctuary city? Like, if you say you're a sanctuary city, and then people send you migrants, and you're now Pikachu face, like, how the fuck does that work? It's like me saying, you know what? Romania... Completely unrelated to this news, by the way. Completely unrelated, but... Let's say I'm a dog lover. I love dogs. I love puppies, right? Like, they're cute, they're adorable, I love them. Now... Romania has a homeless dog problem. Like, there's a lot of dogs on the streets that no one wants to take care of, right? And I say, you know what? Bring them to me. Like, I will offer shelter to all those puppies. I want them, like, give them to me. Why would I be Pikachu face when people just bring loads of them to me? It's like, well, I asked for them. Like, if my neighbor... Let's say he's a cat lover. He doesn't appreciate puppies, right? He doesn't like them. If my neighbor brings them to me, I would understand. Because I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't like them. He wants them to me. I'm not going to give, you know, puppies to my neighbor because he might harm them. Let them come to me. I can say you're poor, so stop being a Euro poor. Well, Iraqi, it doesn't work that way. If you give me $5, you're making me Euro rich. Hello, Blue55 Blue. Thank you for the donation. I think I got another one. V, show us some more Romanian ads. Well, you can move here and you can see as many as you want. By the way, is it time for the event? Let me see if I can find when the event is taking place. The chat is probably bewildered. They're like, what event, V? What event are you talking about? V, what's happening? I'll tell you. Josh Moon, I believe his channel is Man Streams on the Internet, is going to stream with Mr. Metokur. I think this is the first time in history that these two gentlemen will stream with each other. And it might make for a very interesting stream. And I want to see it. I want to look at it. I think it's going to be on Odyssey. So I don't know what they're going to be discussing. I understand they're very hateful, problematic people. And I'm going to watch that, chat. Going to watch that. I can't stream on my channel, though, because, well, they might use some gamer words or talk about certain concepts that the YouTube Trust and Safety Council does not appreciate. But I gotta listen. I gotta stay informed with the happenings on the internet. Is V the only one who has ever owned Metokur in a dumb internet drama? I don't think I owned him. It was just like he came screaming and yelling at me, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong? What did I do? And he was like, I am going to take you down and your entire group of friends and blah blah blah. Okay. I don't think that was owning. That was just weird. Anyway. You don't watch it? It's fine. Like, not everyone has to watch it, you know? Maybe I should start watching football and other manly sports rather than watch this, huh? Anyway, right. I'm going to end it here because I need to go watch. So we'll see tomorrow if there's anything spicy going on. I'll talk about it on my tomorrow stream. And I don't care if Tomo is streaming in 1.5 hours. You should have picked a better timetable. You do not stream over internet celebrities. What the fuck is wrong with you? And by the way, this is something that most streamers know. It's like you have to look at what other streamers stream, and if there's a overlap in audience, sometimes you have to reconsider.